now come together to make Ohio safer. Confederate flags at the county fair are raising more than just questions, and tips to make sure the cause you're donating to isn't a scam. Newswatch starts right now.
And welcome to Newswatch, your source for all news impacting southeastern Ohio. I'm Kaylin Martin. Thanks for joining us. Vigilant Guard 2019, Ohio's largest ever statewide military exercise, entered its final day today. Newswatch reporter Ben Swartz traveled to Rickenbacker Air Force Base in Columbus for a closer look. Ben?
Thank you, Kaylin. The training exercise spans across the entire state of Ohio, involving 11 different counties, including a number in southeast Ohio, such as Athens, Washington, and Guernsey. I was able to take a closer look at the exercise as a whole, as well as how it all starts to come together.
The goal behind Vigilant Guard, which takes place every year in a handful of states, is to better prepare communities to deal with serious emergencies. According to Brigadier General and Vigilant Guard Exercise Director Stephen Rhodes, this means cooperation from the local level through the federal level.
What they're really trying to do is from the local all the way up to the federal level, find out where the vulnerabilities are, what the lessons learned are that we need to, so we need to put resources in place or different capabilities in place within a local, county, or state level. And then the idea is to let that state know this is where your threshold is and where you need to ask for federal help, or where we would recommend asking for federal help.
But none of this training could happen without the help of some civilians. Tammy Abel is one of many actors working with Vigilant Guard, who work to create realistic scenarios in order for responders to train as if they're in a real-life situation.
Yeah, they give you your role player card, so you know if you're supposed to be confused or angry, so then you just take on that role, and when you go in, that's what you act out. And basically, you go in it with a mindset that you're helping them, train, so that if they come across that in the real world, they know what to do.
And while actors like Abel are working to help better prepare responders, at the end of the day, they're helping their whole community.
I feel like I'm giving to my community when I do it, because the more prepared they are when it actually happens, the better off everybody is. So I kind of look at it as like a community service thing.
A mix of military, local responders, and civilians working together to ensure the safety of those around them.
Vigilant Guard 2019 lasts just 4 days, but involves nearly 100 different agencies from around Ohio. Reporting live from the WOUB Newsroom, I'm Ben Schwartz. Back to you, Kaylin.
Thank you, Ben. The mayor of Dayton says she doesn't know why President Trump would lash out at her and Ohio Senator Sherrod Brown after his visit Wednesday. The incident came after Trump's visit to a hospital where he met with victims and responders of the mass shooting. Brown and Whaley expressed primarily positive feelings regarding the president's hospital visit, though they did not criticize his past rhetoric. But Trump tweeted that Mayor Nan Whaley and Senator Brown totally misrepresented his visit. The mayor says she doesn't know what he's talking about.
We've been very open about us wanting the state and federal government to do something around gun control. We shared that with the president. He was well received by victims and first responders. So yeah, I'm at a loss for why all this vitriol came immediately after he had a good visit at the hospital.
The White House social media director also accused the two of lying about the visit. Dan Scavino Jr. tweeted, quote, the president was treated like a rock star inside the hospital, which was all caught on video. They all love seeing their great president. Mayor Whaley spoke later in the day with Governor DeWine. The Democratic mayor of Dayton is working with the Republican governor to push forward legislation. They hope that new regulations can prevent another mass shooting in the state.
He has made a point of reaching out to people that are of the opposite party. He has been open to it. It's not like we agree on everything. That is absolutely not the case, but there are places that we can work together, and that's what I'm most excited about, because I think that we can really show that in this state and show some great movement for our communities and for the whole state as a whole.
Earlier this week, Governor DeWine laid out a list of 17 points to combat the issue of gun violence. The Athens County Commissioners is asking the County Fair Board to stop vendors from selling Confederate flag merchandise. The Fair Board issued a statement yesterday saying it's too late to implement a ban on selling the merch, but they will address the issue later. An Athens County woman sent a letter complaining about the merchandise to the fair, calling it a symbol of hate, bigotry, and intolerance. There are at least 3 vendors selling Confederate flag merchandise at the fair this year. The 168th Athens County Fair wraps up Saturday.
Well, right now in Athens, looking at 82 degrees for the temperature at the moment. We do have some storms in the vicinity at the moment, and some of these are severe at the moment, and heavy rains is going to be a main threat with some of these storms, along with wind and hail. So let's take a look at radar and see what we have going on at the moment. We've had several rounds of rain showers moving through the southeastern part of Ohio, over in Washington County, Noble County, and south parts of Guernsey County. For most of the day today, that whole area there is under some flash flood warnings at the moment, so if you're out driving around, make sure you be careful for flooded roadways. And we do have more storms getting ready to come through the area as we go into the overnight hours tonight. Precipcast shows a line of thunderstorms forming throughout most of the night, moving south from the northwest, moving through most of the area. Again, the main threat with these will be hail and strong winds up to 60 miles per hour at times, and pea to nickel-sized hail. So if you're around the area, make sure you be careful, and if you get a severe thunderstorm warning for your area, make sure you do take shelter. Around the region, looking temperature-wise, temperatures in the mid to 80s, 84 in Marietta, 86 in Ripley, and 87 down there in Ironton. Kaylin, on my full forecast to let you know when these storms are going to be moving out.
Thank you, Blake. Seattle County officials dismantled a marijuana growing operation. Deputies responded to a complaint of suspected marijuana plants growing in a field near Carpenter Road. They discovered around 40 marijuana plants and undetermined amount of processed marijuana and equipment to grow marijuana in a nearby residence. Suspects were identified and questioned in the investigation and will face criminal charges once the scientific weight of the marijuana is determined. 2 Royal hospitals are forced to close. Ohio Valley Medical Center in Wheeling and East Ohio Regional Hospital in Martins Ferry are both closing due to financial losses. The Intelligencer reports the 2 hospitals lost $37 million in the last 2 years. Both hospitals will close within 2 to 3 months. Vice President Mike Pence praised efforts to combat the opioid epidemic in Kentucky during an event in Manchester today. Pence says more federal money is being invested to help further the region's progress. The vice president says that $400 million of funding is being released from the Department of Health and Human Services. $10 million of that is being directed to programs in Kentucky. The NRA issues a warning to President Trump. An official in Mississippi are left scrambling after immigrants raids. These stories and more when Newswatch returns.
Is member-supported public television. Your contribution keeps WOUB available in your community. Become a member with a gift of $60 or more for access to stream more than 1,000 of your favorite PBS programs through WOUB Passport. Programs like Nature, Sherlock, and all episodes of Downton Abbey and Victoria. Pledge now at WOUB.org. And thank you.
This is a box that showed you a world beyond your own. It was just a box, but the world has changed, and so have we. And now the box can be almost any size or shape. And you decide what you want to explore. Anytime, any place. Break out of the box with PBS.
PBS had a special on Pearl Harbor, and once Landon started watching the show about the Arizona, he completely became fascinated.
That's Donald Stratton, and that's me.
And then his Christmas wish this year was to meet Donald Stratton, one of the survivors from the Arizona.
So good to see you, buddy.
Everything that Landon has learned from PBS, it's immeasurable.
This is for you.
Thank you, big guy.
He is living proof of the effect that PBS has had on his life.
I loved Ken Burns' series on the Civil War. It was deeply impacting. I love history. To have those stories told through these letters, through stories of love and loss, it rewrote the book on how to tell a story. When television was invented, there were a lot of people who had dreams about what it could do. I think PBS still aspires for and often succeeds at reaching the highest ideals of what television could be.
Officials in Mississippi are scrambling to figure out what to do with children of parents arrested in an immigration raid. Last night, ICE raids in Mississippi led to arrests of almost 700 people in 6 Mississippi towns. Kristen Holmes tells us how local leaders are dealing with the situation.
Children begging to see their parents.
Governments, please put your heart. Let my parents be free with everybody else.
After immigration officials rounded up hundreds of undocumented workers across Mississippi. One federal prosecutor calling the sweep of 7 food processing plants the largest single state immigration enforcement operation in the history of the United States.
Through the hard work of these men and women in law enforcement, we are once again becoming a nation of law and order.
But many officials voicing concern about the children, some of whom returned to empty homes after their first day of school. Their parents swept up in the sting.
We had some kids that didn't have anywhere to go, and so we did work with local community organizations to make sure that the boys and girls had a safe place to go.
According to Immigration and Customs Enforcement, more than 300 migrant parents have been released, and some placed on ankle monitoring during the immigration proceedings. Meanwhile, communities and organizations rallying around the children, including this gym in Forest, Mississippi, whose owner welcomed them for the night.
We're going to have bedding available for them, and we're going to get food for them just to get them through the night. And if they need transport to school in the morning, we can arrange that as well.
I'm Kristen Holmes reporting.
The Trump administration rejected efforts to prioritize domestic terror threats for more than a year. Sources say the Department of Homeland Security tried to make stopping domestic terrorism a greater priority last fall. According to one source, the White House only wanted to focus on jihadist threats. The source said the White House had, quote, major ideological blinders on. There is a mention of domestic terrorism in the National Counterterrorism Strategy, but it makes no specific mention of white supremacy. The mother of the El Paso shooter called police weeks before the mass shooting happened. She told police she was worried about her son's age, 21, his maturity level, and lack of experience handling an AK-type firearm. But her lawyers say a public safety officer told her, based on her description of the situation, her son was legally allowed to buy the gun. Her lawyers say the call was just to get more information, and she wasn't worried that her son posed a threat to anybody. Whether that specific gun was used in the attack is still unclear right now. The NRA is reportedly warning President Trump about his openness to stronger background checks. In the wake of the mass shooting in Texas and Ohio, Trump said he was open to background checks on gun buyers. But a source told CNN the head of the NRA told President Trump the move would not sit well with his base. Trump said he plans to work with Congress to address mass shootings, starting with background checks and mental illness. In a tweet about the shooting, the NRA said the call for background checks is rhetoric for, quote, billionaire activists and campaign rallies. The number of arrests being made at the border are down. U.S. immigration officials say they saw a 24% drop in the number of migrants arrested between June and July. Customs and Border Patrols released the data today. Around 72,000 were arrested in July, compared to nearly 95,000 arrested in June. The numbers have been declined since May, when arrest numbers were at the highest they've been in a decade. Drug-related overdoses now affect more who live in the city. That story's still ahead.
And we do have severe storms in the vicinity, and that's going to bring us some strong wind and some hail. More details about that in the weekend forecast next on Newswatch. But first, here's a look at stocks and local interest.
WOUB is member-supported public television. Your contribution keeps WOUB available in your community. Become a member with a gift of $60 or more for access to stream more than 1,000 of your favorite PBS programs through WOUB Passport. Programs like Nature, Sherlock, and all episodes of Downton Abbey and Victoria. Pledge now at woub.org. And thank you.
I loved Ken Burns' series on the Civil War. It was deeply impacting. I love history. To have those stories told through these letters, through stories of love and loss, it rewrote the book on how to tell a story. When television was invented, there were a lot of people who had dreams about what it could do. I think PBS still aspires for and often succeeds at reaching the highest ideals of what television could be.
What are you doing?
Possibilities. Your day is filled with them.
Reach up, energy in the fingertips, collapse. TV, play Downton Abbey.
And PBS helps everyone discover theirs. Anytime, anywhere.
Up in the sky, you can see it.
PBS, we're with you for life.
PBS had a special on Pearl Harbor, and once Landon started watching the show about the Arizona, he completely became fascinated.
That's Donald Stratton, and that's me.
And then his Christmas wish this year was to meet Donald Stratton, one of the survivors from the Arizona.
So good to see you, buddy.
Everything that Landon has learned from PBS, it's immeasurable.
This is for you.
Thank you, big guy.
He is living proof of the effect that PBS has had on his life.
Welcome back to the Newswatch Weather Center. Right now in Athens, looking at 82 degrees. That will be dropping as we do have some storms in the vicinity. Some of these storms do have severe thunderstorm warnings on them. The heavy rain at times is going to be one of our main threats, along with heavy hail at times with pea and nickel-sized hail and some strong winds up to 60 miles per hour. I would take a look at radar and see what we're dealing with. We have some storms over to our west and northwest moving into the Athens area. We have some storms over in Noble, Washington County, over into Morgan County as well. They've been getting hammered all day with some rain, and they actually do have some flash flood warnings for those areas, which includes Perry, Morgan, and Washington counties. So if you're in those areas, make sure you watch out for those flooded roadways. And we do have some more storms building off to our west near Dayton, moving south towards us. At the moment, we've been fairly quiet for the Athens area, but as we go into more overnight hours tonight, these storms are going to be moving their way into the area, giving us some strong wind and hail at times as well. The precipcast is showing this, doing a pretty good job showing this line of thunderstorm that's going to be moving into the area tonight. That will last through most of the overnight hours. These storms should be gone by around 3 a.m. tonight, moving through the area tonight. From the Storm Prediction Center, they do have us under the slight risk category for severe weather, meaning that severe weather is possible for most of the evening. So if you're out there, make sure you just pay attention to the weather. If it's not storming in your area at the moment, check the radar and monitor the weather. Make sure you stay safe, as those storms could be popping up out of pretty much nowhere. Around the region, we do have similar conditions around most of the area. We're all going to be seeing those thunderstorms. 86 degrees in Ripley, 87 degrees down there in Ironton, and 81 up in Cambridge. As we move into tonight in Athens, 66 degrees. Those storms will be moving out by 3 a.m. Like I said, we will have those localized flooding possible. Even after those rain showers have stopped, all the waters coming down from the hills into low-lying areas could cause some flooding in some of the areas. Around the region tonight, dropping down into the 60s, 67 in Marietta, 62 up in Cambridge, 61 degrees up in Newark, pretty cool up there, and we'll see those thunderstorms start moving out tonight. By 8 a.m. tomorrow, we're looking at 66 degrees. Because of all those rain showers overnight tonight, we're going to be dealing with some pretty humid mornings out there. 95% humidity tomorrow morning. 77 degrees by noon. It's going to be a mild and pleasant day out there, lots of sunshine. And by 4 p.m., 82 degrees. It's going to be a comfortable, dry evening for most of the evening tomorrow. Precast shows tomorrow shows nothing really major out there. Might see a few pop-up showers early in the morning down in the southern part of our viewing area. Nothing to be too concerned about. But around the region tomorrow, looking at temperatures in the lower 80s for most of the area, 83 in Marietta, and 80 degrees up in Cambridge. While seeing, we have a slight chance of seeing those another evening time thunderstorm, as we see on precast, mainly in the southern viewing areas. Nothing to be overly concerned about. But Saturday in Athens, 83 degrees, no more rain expected. But as we go into the 7-day forecast, sunshine again on Sunday, 85 degrees, 87 on Monday, and we have another chance of seeing some rain showers on Tuesday and Wednesday. Kaylin?
Thank you, Blake. Drug overdose deaths has been a more royal issue for years, but a new study shows urban residents are now more likely than those outside of cities to die from an overdose. Today's Health Minute, Mandy Gaither has more on the numbers.
For nearly 10 years, the number of overdose deaths in rural counties across the U.S. exceeded those in major cities. But according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, as of 2015, that is no longer the case. Researchers with the CDC's National Center for Health Statistics found that starting that year, people in urban areas became more likely to die of an overdose than those in rural areas. But who they were and what kind of drugs they used did vary. Men were more likely to die from overdoses in the cities, while women were more likely to fatally OD in rural areas. And when it came to what kind of drugs people were dying from, that varied too. The majority of deaths from heroin, cocaine, and drugs like fentanyl happened in the city. The less populated areas saw more overdose deaths from things like prescription opioids, methamphetamine, and amphetamines. Overall, preliminary data shows that those drug-related deaths have dropped slightly in the U.S., declining 5.1% in 2018. For today's Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
West Nile virus is on the rise. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention reports the disease killed 167 people last year. More than 2,600 cases were reported. That's 550 more people than 2017. The CDC is also reporting an uptick in the number of people getting the most severe form of West Nile, which causes brain inflammation. Although most people who contract the disease never show symptoms, about 10% of those who develop serious symptoms die. The virus occurs throughout the U.S. and is spreaded primarily by mosquitoes. Vaping and smoking e-cigarettes may have consequences worse than already thought. Make sure the cause you're donating to isn't a scam. Next on Newswatch. And be sure to stay tuned to WOUB. Here's a look at what's coming up tonight on your public television station.
Is a box that showed you a world beyond your own. It was just a box, but the world has changed, and so have we. And now the box can be almost any size or shape. And you decide what you want to explore. Anytime, any place. Break out of the box with PBS.
What are you doing?
Possibilities. Your day is filled with them.
Reach up, energy in the fingertips, collapse. TV, play Downton Abbey.
And PBS helps everyone discover theirs. Anytime, anywhere.
Up in the sky, you can see it.
PBS, we're with you for life.
PBS had a special on Pearl Harbor, and once Landon started watching the show about the Arizona, he completely became fascinated.
That's Donald Stratton, and that's me.
And then his Christmas wish this year was to meet Donald Stratton, one of the survivors from the Arizona.
So good to see you, buddy.
Everything that Landon has learned from PBS, it's immeasurable.
This is for you.
Thank you, big guy.
He is living proof of the effect that PBS has had on his life.
WOUB is member-supported public television. Your contribution keeps WOUB available in your community. Become a member with a gift of $60 or more for access to stream more than 1,000 of your favorite PBS programs through WOUB Passport. Programs like Nature, Sherlock, and all episodes of Downton Abbey and Victoria. Pledge now at woub.org. And thank you.
If you are looking to donate to a good cause following this weekend's mass shooting, be careful. The Department of Homeland Security's cyber agency is issuing a warning this week, telling people to be aware of fraudulent donation drives. Meredith Wood has 3 things to look out for before donating.
Donating money on the internet is a gamble. With so much anonymity and very little accountability, how do you make sure your donations during tragic events don't fall into the wrong hands? According to the Department of Homeland Security Cyber Agency, here are 3 things you should consider to avoid donation scams. Number 1, research charities or crowdfunding campaigns yourself and make sure it's clear exactly where your money is going.
There's ample opportunity for hoaxes like that to be conducted, and unless a company, organization, or even an individual does their own due diligence to look into something, they may be subject to it.
Number 2, be cautious when it comes to opening email attachments. Experts say do not click on links in unsolicited email messages asking for money. Number 3, be wary of fraudulent pleas and donation ads on social networking sites. The DHS Cyber Agency also warns about door-to-door solicitations during tragedies. Even with all the scams, charitable giving can be an important part of healing after a national incident.
You do your best to be one of the good guys. You do your best knowing that, hey, there's going to be others out there that do things wrong, that do things for the wrong reasons, that are unethical. But when you go in with the right heart in the first place, everything works out.
I'm Meredith Wood.
The Federal Drug Administration is investigating reports of seizures possibly related to e-cigarettes. The FDA announced the investigation yesterday, citing 127 reports of seizures, fainting, or tremor, from first-time and experienced e-cigarette users. The agency has not yet determined if the use of e-cigarettes are directly linked to the cases. Major League Baseball is coming to Iowa. The first game ever to be played in the state will be held in Dyersville, where the 1989 baseball movie Field of Dreams was filmed. An 8,000-seat ballpark is being built next to the movie field, which is carved out of a cornfield. The regular season game will be played next August between Chicago White Sox and the New York Yankees. Now here's Blake with the final weather.
Well, right now, overnight tonight, Nathan, looking at 66 degrees overnight. Storms will be moving out of the area by 3 a.m., but we'll still be dealing with some localized flooding out there. So if you're out driving around, make sure you be careful for flooded roadways. Tomorrow, 82 degrees. Morning showers will be possible, but for the most part, it's going to be mainly dry out there. It's going to be a very comfortable day as we go into the 7-day forecast. 82 degrees on Saturday and 85 degrees on Sunday. More sunshine on Monday, 87 degrees. Tuesday and Wednesday, looking at another chance of seeing some rain showers and cool back down again on Wednesday, Kaylin. Hopefully the storm's moving out here quickly.
Yeah, I'm hoping so too. I want to see more sun.
By tomorrow morning, we should be good.
Yeah. Well, that's all for tonight's News Watch. Please be sure to tune in for tomorrow's News Watch update. Stay tuned for the PBS NewsHour coming up next. And remember, you can find the latest WOUB. You can find the latest news at any time at woub.org. For Blake Hardesty, I'm Kayla Martin. Have a great night.